Hello, good day, cherished viewers. Joseph Atta is my name, from Ghana, West Africa. Welcome to my program, Mining for the Truth, which refers to the process of digging to discover the undiluted doctrines of Christ, our 10th Church of Christ. It has two purposes as follows. One, to teach the word. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was with God. John 1 verse 1. You can go to Genesis 1 verse 1 to prove this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The plural Hebrew word for God there is Elohim, God the Father, God the Son, the Word Jesus Christ, God the Holy Spirit. Elohim means God is powerful. It also means God of creation. 2, to teach the truth. John 8:32. And you know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What is the truth? John 17:17. Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. What is the truth? Manifestation. John 14 verse 6. And Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me, or except by me. The phrase except through me means that there is no other way, as can be seen in Acts 4 verse 12. Everyone is welcome. Eccl, Campus Church of Christ. Taprade, you Matt, you are welcome. There is Odonkom, Sisata. You are officially welcome to the program. I love you so much, and I know you love me too. Mrs. Mariok, you are also welcome. Sarah Baba Edu, Precious Obin Minsa. And everyone is welcome. We are continuing our studies in the book of Ecclesiastes. So theme is the book of Ecclesiastes. Topic is searching for the true meaning of life. Today, so the subtopic today will be the pedagogy of chapter 7, episode 1. This will be broken down into episodes 1 to 3. It is very broad. So today will be the pedagogy of chapter 7, episode 1. And the title will be Making Wise Choices in an Uncertain World. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 1 to 4. So let's read before we move on. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 1 to 12. Verse 1 to 4, actually, sorry. Last week we ended with Ecclesiastes chapter 6. It was only one episode, so I didn't break it down into 2. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. For that is the end of all men, and the living will take to the heart. Verse 7. Sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better. The final verse. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. So basically, this is what we're going to look at today. Feel free to comment. My number is 0248 02 6557 0248 02 6557. Of course, I'll begin by summarizing the chapter 6 as we learned yesterday. So last week, sorry. So we saying that Solomon appears in chapter 7 to be responding the questions he raised in Ecclesiastes 6 verse 12. Let's see what he said in Ecclesiastes 6 verse 12. For who knows what is good for man in life, all the days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell a man what will happen after him under the sun? So what is Solomon saying by the beginning of the chapter 7? He is saying that, of course, it is more or less a proverb. He's addressing ways to choose in an uncertain world. That's all. How to choose better ways in an uncertain world. This is all about the text from chapter 7, verse 1 to 4, where Solomon is using to explain the 6 verse 12, if you want to put. Better than comparison. So he's saying that these better than comparisons contrast what may be pleasant with what is wise. What is momentarily appealing with what is lasting, valuable. So are you relying on perishable or the everlasting? There are times when bad is better. There are times when bad is better. And I suppose that some bad occasions have led to your better days in your life. Some of the medicine that taste the worst or bitter may produce the best cure. Precisely in Africa, we are told to drink herbs, and herbs are very bitter. They cure the diseases and then the illness most, so preferably to the Western medicine. Of course, I'm not saying don't go to hospital for review, for checkup, for diagnosing. Many a time, even they themselves will tell you that go home, use traditional herbs or medicine. They taste bitter. It is uncomfortable to the tongue. In this case, Solomon seems to be saying again that adversity is better than prosperity. Adversity is better than prosperity. Even as Christians, we are told in the Bible that when we need something so urgently, I won't even say urgently, something which has prolonged to be answered, a prolonged request from God, we should appear or we should appeal to Him in fasting and prayers. Dry fasting and prayers. That's the thing, that adversity is better than prosperity. When we are in afflictions, I think it's when we get closer to God. But when we prosper, when we have things moving on smoothly, who cares? We even tend to forget about God. We even forget church meeting time. The person is so busy or was so busily selling, making money, conversing business comments, or I would say that they were communicating in terms of business. So the person forgot that it was time for church meeting. Sometimes people even forget the day in which they are living. Bitter medicine rather tend to cure than the sweet medicine. Now the preacher begins by declaring that a good name means the reflection of one's character. This is what you must know. Is far more relevant than precious ointment. You mean a good smell. So you see that your character, your attitude is better than the smell by perfume. And by family, we are saying that at least you are supposed to bath before the application of the perfume. But a person who has not taken his or her bath and applying a medicine and applying a perfume gives off a bad stench, offensive odor, meaning of stink. The first has depth and lasting meaning. The last only a person pleasant odor, which says nothing meaningless about the one who wears it. It is also superficial and momentary. Yes. I mean, how can you choose to always be spraying yourself, be applying perfume without washing your clothes or without bathing? This should tell you that you cannot use a perfume to cover your bad character or your bad attitude or your bad behavior in this life. So supposing that you were the philanthropist in the country, in the whole world, but we saw that you were into human trafficking, you were selling drugs to make money, you have no legacy. The smell or the perfume becomes your charity work. The money that you donated, what you bought, the soul that you saved becomes the smell of the perfume. But your character was that you were killing human beings. You belonged to Freemason. You were using dishonest means to make money. That's why we think that a good name is better than a precious ointment. Of course, I'll give you more elaborations on that. The most precious of perfume cannot cover the stink of a bad character. I think I've explained a bit. The most precious ointment or the most precious of perfume cannot, the word is cannot, cover the stink, bad offensive odor. So we say stench of a bad character. You cannot hide your character. No matter how it is, it will pop up. No matter how you pretend, you'll be exposed at the right time. Solomon is not in vain here against the use of ointment. No. Never ever. We are not saying don't have perfume. And Solomon didn't say so. But we are making reference to when you are becoming a hypocrite. Of course, we can find some two vital purposes of ointment in the New Testament. One, they served some useful purposes in the New Testament. One, they were instruments of kindness to guests. Luke 7, 45 and 46. Luke 7, 45 and 46. You gave me no kiss, but this woman has not ceased to kiss my feet since the time I came in. Verse 46. You did not anoint my head with oil, but this woman has anointed my feet with fragrant oil. I think John 12 verse 3. Let's see something there. Then Mary took a pound of very good costly oil of spikenard, anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the oil. Of course, here is about the services of Mary to Jesus Christ. So that's the first use of the oil, or you can say perfume, in the New Testament. 2, John 19 verse 39 and 40. A means of caring for the dead. So number one, perfume was used as a kindness to a guest. Number 2, it was used to care for the dead body. So let's see what happened when Jesus died. John 19 verse 39 and then 40. John 19:39. And Nicodemus, who at first came to Jesus by night, also came, bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds, 40. Then they took the body of Jesus and bound it in strips of linen, or you can say linen if you want, with the spices, as the custom of the Jew is to bury. So Christ is dead. They were using ointment to care for his body. Dead bodies were cared for using the perfume, of course, as a means of spicing it from what? From decaying. Of course, Christ is the savior of the world. So they were supposed to take a very good care of the corpse. I think that's why nowadays, when people die too, they try to preserve the body so well from rotting, so that the body could be buried and peacefully the person would depart. But of course, when the person dies, God is interested in the soul and not the body. The body of Jesus Christ is different from the body of you and I. However, people still care for the dead bodies a lot. That's why we have mortuary, the morgue, where the dead bodies are kept, properly kept. They must be properly kept, ideally. When they are done with their burial, then everything ends there. Now we continue. But they pale in significance to what we truly are within. Now we say that you cannot use perfume, the smell of perfume, to cover your innermost character or your innermost man. You can't. You cannot do that. To use the smell of perfume to cover up, more or less, women who use makeup to cover or to disfigure or to officially change their face, their looks. Now, when you are staying with a woman, I remember on campus, Kumasi, one day I was attending lectures. No, I was rather going to the hostel. I met one girl from our hostel. Of course, I'm not friendly with women, naturally. She greeted me, I didn't respond. So later, when she came to hostel, then she called me and told me that, oh, I met you, and then I greeted, but I didn't respond. Then I said, oh, I didn't see you. For she was wearing a ribbon, a wig or so. The truth was that I didn't see her. Normally, when I'm walking, you see that my head is pointed down. My eyes are always down. But I sight from a distance. So if I come in, I will see who you are, who is coming. If I want to meet you, I will meet you. If I don't want, I will divert my path. So I saw that someone was coming, but I didn't picture the real image. Not knowing that this girl or this lady was at our hostel. So I told her that because of your appearance, the makeup, you disguise yourself. So therefore, I couldn't see you well. This is the main reason why I don't like women who put on makeup. I find it so difficult to recognize who you are. Actually, when you put on makeup, I find it so very difficult to identify who you are. So we say that even the smell of the most precious perfume cannot cover the inner of any human being. It is possible that the precious ointment is indicative of wealth. Solomon had in an earlier proverb made this point. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Proverbs 22 verse 1. So we're saying that wealth too is superficial and transitory. Wealth is sooner passing. So we're saying that maybe some people may assume that the precious ointment is making reference to wealth. However, wealth is transitory. It is sooner or later vanishing. Nothing lasts forever. These are things that we must know. Now, Solomon's next proverb is a bit of stunner. And the day of the dead, than the day of one's birth. He was comparing a day of rejoicing to a day of mourning, or a day of mourning to a day of rejoicing. How possible? When someone dies, we are all sad. When a child is brought forth to the world, we are all happy. So why was Solomon comparing? And he was comparing birth to unfavorable death. Maybe it might be comprehended in text. For the man who has chosen a good name, a godly character, over mere things, death is the end of race we all run. We will all die. We will all die. Whether you live it wisely or not, you will die. Whether you lived to give us a legacy or not, we will die. The person who had a good character, the person who had a bad character, they are all expired. Paul also said to Timothy, in 2 Timothy 4 verse 7, that I have fought a good fight. I have finished the course. I have kept the faith. There are two occasions when our name is especially vital. One, at birth, sunset, and at death, birth is sunrise and death is sunset. That is where you have our names. When you are born, they give you a name, and when you are dying too, or when you die too, of course, there's a name for it. So at birth, sunrise, and then at obituary, sunset. That's why nowadays, if you go to some cemeteries, you find that this is how they write their age. Sunrise, then the date will be there. Sunset, and the day too will be there. Of course, I think it's a modern way of writing a signpost for the disease. Of course, mounted on his or her grave. Now the preacher turns immediately to consider where the truly wise will find themselves in the midst of life's conflicting circumstances. It is better, he says, to go to the house of mourning, you mean a funeral, than the house of feasting. So you can imagine that King Solomon was making us to understand that it is always better to attend a funeral than attend maybe a birthday party. I think I will explain it a bit. Where there is party, it's full of merrymaking, revel, people enjoy themselves a lot. And you don't learn any life lessons here. There are some countries in which they don't believe that there's heaven or there's hell. So therefore, rather they are saying that heaven on earth. So they live their life in merrymaking in such a way that they assume that there is no life after death. That's why we're saying that where there is more merrymaking, many a time we learn no sense from them. It's about continuous enjoyment. Continuous enjoyment. But when you go to a funeral, there's a reminder that your end or your fate, your destiny is the same as the person that you have seen lying in state. So critically, you begin to examine your life. So 70 years, how many years have I lived? So subtract the 70 from the years that you are now, and then you see that, hey, I am left with these years to be in the same fate as the person that have attended a funeral. So we're saying that the funeral ground is a reminder of the end of every human being. Psalms 89 verse 48, Psalms 90 verse 10 is saying that our lifespan on earth is 70 years or 80. When it surpasses 70 to 80, we even suffer a lot. Everyone will die. Nothing lasts forever. Time takes everyone out. No matter how cautious or careless you live your life, you will die. You can fake your age, you can fake your appearance or your growth. You will still die. Always, I've been saying that growth occurs through feeding. We are growing because we eat. If not for death, no one will grow. We eat to grow, to age, to die. Period. You cannot reverse this. You are hereby informed that death is a natural curse. Just as Adam was cursed to work on the land or to toil on the land. Everyone too, or every man must toil on the land. Adam too was cursed that he would die. He died. So you also die. There's nothing that you can do. So someone is saying that it is wiser for us to draw near to the funeral than where there is a merrymaking. However, King Solomon is not entirely condemning that don't enjoy your life or don't make merry. Now, you can go to Ecclesiastes 2 verse 24. This one I may not read. Okay, I will read it. Ecclesiastes 2 verse 24. Ecclesiastes 8 verse 15. Ecclesiastes 9 verse 7 to Ecclesiastes 9 verse 7 to 9. So I'll read for you to know that King Solomon never forbade times of pleasure. So, first things first, 2 verse 24. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. God has given you to enjoy. So King Solomon is never against times of pleasure. Please, these are things that you must know. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink. You must eat, of course. I just drank water because I was a bit tasty to lubricate my truth. And of course, as I've been saying earlier in my previous lesson, that per doctor's advice, you should not wait to become tasty before you drink water. So intermittently you can lubricate. Please, you must have a bag which can contain water so that you sip in small. Let's go to 8 verse 15 of the same Ecclesiastes. So I commended enjoyment, because a man has nothing better under the sun than to eat, drink, and be merry. For this will remain with him in his labor all the days of his life, which God gives to him under the sun. God has given you. Eat, drink, and be merry. 9 verse 7 to 9. Of course, we are on the same Ecclesiastes. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Let your garment always be white, and let your head lack no evil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun. All your days of vanity, for that is your portion of life, and is the labor which you perform under the sun. So even when you find love, King Solomon is saying that live joyfully, be merry, eat and drink. I suppose my point has been cleared. Funerals remind us of the unpleasant but critical truth that all of us die. Funeral, as I said, is a reminder that no matter how cautious or careless you live your life, you will die. The wife will face squarely the fragility and temporariness of life in the flesh, and order their lives accordingly. Order than their life accordingly. Of course, I made mention that whether you live cautiously or carelessly, you will die. Yes, it is true. But then people, I am not in any way suggesting that live your life carelessly. People who live cautiously, of course, many a time live longer than people living reckless life. These are things that you must know. Whatever we may suppose, pain and sorrow are far better teacher than pleasure. Yes. When you are in pain, it's when you learn a lot. When you are in a problem, it's when you see the reality of your friends. When things become hard in marriages, it's when you see the true nature of the person who claimed he or she loved you or loves you a lot. Now, when we go to the Old Testament, Psalms 90 verse 12, Psalm 34 verse 4, they are saying this. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. And then the same David here is saying that, David too appears in Psalms 39 verse 4. Lord, make me to know my end. Which end? Death. And what is measure of my days, that I may know how frail I am. He demanded. He knew very well that for sure he would die. If you go to Genesis 27 verse 2, Isaac became visually impaired. And he knew that definitely he was going to die. And he died. Death is a gracious warning that man will leave his wicked world and draw near to God. Romans 8 verse 20. Now Solomon concludes this segment of his Proverbs by saying that sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better. Ecclesiastes 7 verse 3. Sorrow is not always better than laughter, for he once said as much. Proverbs 15 verse 3, 17 verse 22. Now, let's see something here. Proverbs 15 verse 3, 17 verse 22. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. I think next will be on the 17 verse 22. Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart does good, like medicine, but a broken spirit dries the bones. So I think this will help us understand that. Sorrow is not always. Now Solomon in Ecclesiastes 7 verse 3, because I'm trying to go back small. So that sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better. That one, it is a fact. It is not always so, as we read in Proverbs 15 verse 18, 17 verse 22. So Solomon sorrow is not always better than laughter, for he once said as much. Bible isn't contradicting itself here. But in this context, when it is either sober thought or endless party hoping, it is far better choice. He emphasizes the point already made that bad times have a far greater impact on our hearts than times of ease. It is true. This one is so clearly true. That bad times, in fact, as I said, it even bad times draw us closer and closer to God. Then when we are at ease, you are at ease. So what do you need? Nowadays, we have some rich people who brag that they have never attended any church, yet God has blessed them. I'm surprised that everyone mentions the name of God. Last time I was in a car coming home, somewhere 9 p.m. late in the evening, where the car has some small problem. The tire, some part of the outer layer of the tire, of the back tire, peeled. So the movement became noisy. Now there was one, I would say, lady or girl sitting beside me. She shouted, "Jesus! Jesus, Jesus!" Continuously, she was shouting, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." We all alighted. We had to alight. So we got down, and then the mate was able to peel off the outer layer. So we continued our journey. But when we alighted, I asked her, why did you shout Jesus or Jesus' name? She was also asking me that. But were you thinking that I should mention your name rather? The only person that I could call was Jesus Christ. So, in effect, she didn't understand what I said. But she also asked me a question that, so, did you want me to have mentioned your name? Why did I ask her that? She was indecently dressed. A very short skirt. So you think that God has time for sinners. I'm not here to judge. But you are hereby informed that students who learn performs better than those who don't learn. See the way she was dressed. You are actually indecent. So you think that you are living for God. How possible? Christ said, don't mention my name in vain. So in my own view, I suggested that Christ was not even interested in her crime. Because she was not doing the right thing. However, he knows the heart. He could have saved her maybe when we had a major accident. But I'm trying to let you know that if you were a sinner, don't think that God's eyes are on you. God does not listen to the prayer of sinners. God listens to the prayer of a sinner who has repented and seeking forgiveness. Period. But if we're a sinner going to take a bet, if you are an armed robber going into, or you are going to steal, you pray to God, God, protect me, God, help me to win this bet, and then you have won, and he was able to steal. Please, your master is Satan. These are the sensible things that you must know. To understand that two rules the world. God rules in the heart of the righteous, and Satan rules in the heart of the unrighteous. You are being unrighteous when you don't dress decently. You are being unrighteous when you take bets. You are equally a sinner when you are a thief and then you steal. So those who have become rich and did not know God, they were not made rich by God. It would be better that you stop even mentioning God's name. That would be better. Because there are consequences for mentioning God's name in vain. We move on. So we are saying that bad times have a far greater impact on our hearts than times of ease. That's why I said that people who are rich don't even see the essence of attending a church. Because they became rich as unbelievers. And filthy, they are rich. So they mock the Christians who work for evangelism. Christians who are, in fact, these rich people who are unbelievers have built houses for Christians to hire. So they mock them that even you are a Christian, but you are hiring my room. I am Antichrist, but I am your landlord. Now, the sense that you must learn here is that the destination of a Christian is to go to heaven. So it doesn't matter whether you sleep under a tent or in a filthy environment. We were all not created to come to this life to build. Some must build, some must buy a car, some must walk in that order. Alright, we move on. Even our Lord learned through suffering. Hebrews 5 verse 8. That Christ learned through suffering. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And suffering produce strong faith. When you suffer for Christ, it binds you. It gives you the solid foundation to keep hoping, to trust, and to have faith in God. We are almost ending in Ecclesiastes 7 verse 4, and then Matthew 7 verse 40. So as he concludes, the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning. People who are sensible prefer to go to a place of mourning. But the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. People who don't want to learn, people who don't want to face the realities of life, they shun enough. They don't even want to attend. Not necessarily that they are busy or preoccupied, but they are thinking that they will never die. If people have not died, do you think we can occupy this life? Where I'm saying, if all human beings are alive, do you think that I would have gotten the chance to hide this room? So the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, where people are mourning. It's where the wise people must go to learn some senses, to exercise their senses that, hey, life is not always about prosperities or sweet things. There's bitterness attached. But the heart of the fools is in the house of mirth. They keep on entertaining themselves into stupefaction. We are advised to take the road of divine wisdom, which will always be the road less traveled. Matthew 7 verse 14, that we must strive to walk the narrow gate. The word is strive, to struggle vigorously. Having said that, this is the end of our lesson today. Now, today, we saw that a good smell from the most precious perfume cannot cover the stench of any human being. To tell you that your good deeds can never overrule your bad attitude or your character. You'll be exposed that this is your real character. Also, it is always better to go to the house of the dead than the house of the birth. Go to where they mourn, to learn senses that we will all die, than always attending parties, merrymaking, to think that there is no ending to the human life. On that note, I wish you success, and I'll see you next time on the Pedagogy of Chapter 7, Episode 2, on faithful are the wounds of a friend. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 5 to 10. My name is Joseph Atta. See you next time. Bye-bye.